I was driving through the mountains that night, my hands gripping the steering wheel like a lifeline. The road twisted and turned through the thick fog, swallowing my headlights whole. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the soft hum of my car's engine and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. Then, in my rearview mirror, I saw them. 2 bright headlights cutting through the darkness, following me too closely. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe just another late-night traveler, someone as lost in this nowhere road as I was. But then, the lights started flashing. Once, twice, 3 times. A warning? A signal? I frowned, my stomach knotting. The only reason someone would do that was if something was wrong with my car. A flat tire? Smoke from the hood? I hadn't noticed anything. Still, I slowed down and pulled over to the side of the road. Gravel crunched under my tires as I came to a stop. My heart thudded in my chest as I reached for the door handle. But before I could step out, I glanced at the rearview mirror again. There was no car, just an empty road, stretching behind me into the fog. A shiver crept up my spine. I turned in my seat, looking back through the rear windshield, expecting to see taillights disappearing around a bend. But there was nothing. No glow, no sound, just the vast, eerie silence of the mountain night. Then from somewhere far below, I heard it. Tires screeching. The sound of something skidding, sliding, falling. I held my breath, straining to hear more. But the sound faded into the wind, lost in the abyss below. I swallowed hard and quickly shifted back into drive. My gut screamed at me to get out of there. I had barely gone half a mile when the headlights reappeared. Closer, brighter, more insistent. My hands tightened around the wheel. No, this wasn't possible. There was no road behind me, just a sheer drop-off. I had seen it myself. Then how was that car still there? I didn't stop this time. I floored the gas, my heart pounding. The road twisted again, and I barely kept control as my tires skidded on the damp pavement. The headlights behind me followed perfectly, never slowing, never faltering. My breathing was ragged, my mind screaming for a logical explanation. Maybe I imagined stopping. Maybe I hallucinated the empty road. Maybe. The headlights surged forward. I gasped. They were too close now, impossibly close, bright enough to cast my shadow against the dashboard. I could almost feel the heat of them through the rear windshield. I gritted my teeth and swerved around another bend. The road here was tighter, the turns sharper. Too sharp. Another glance in the mirror. The headlights didn't follow the curve. They went straight over the edge. My hands went ice cold as I watched them vanish. No screeching tires this time, no sound of impact. Just gone. And yet, a second later, when I turned my eyes back to the road ahead, the headlights were there again. Not behind me. Ahead. Waiting. A strangled noise escaped my throat. This couldn't be real. I slammed on the brakes, my car skidding to a halt just inches from the glowing orbs. My breath came in short, sharp gasps as I squinted into the brightness, trying to make out the shape of the vehicle. But there was no car. Only 2 floating, ghostly lights. And then they started moving toward me. My body acted before my brain could. I threw the car into reverse, tires screeching as I backed away. The headlights kept advancing, slow but steady, swallowing the road in their eerie glow. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just turned the wheel hard, swinging the car into a wild U-turn. The tires skidded, the back end fishtailing dangerously close to the cliff's edge. But I didn't care. I had to get out of there. The road flew beneath me as I sped back the way I came, back into the thick, choking fog. My mind raced. What the hell was that? A trick of the light? Some kind of hallucination? Then, in my mirror, I saw something that made my heart lurch into my throat. A figure, standing in the middle of the road, right where the headlights had been. I barely got a glimpse before the fog swallowed it again, but I knew what I saw. A person, or something like one. I didn't slow down. I didn't stop. I drove as fast as I could, not caring about the hairpin turns or the darkness pressing in around me. Only when I finally saw the flickering neon sign of a roadside diner did I allow myself to breathe. I pulled into the lot, my hands shaking as I shut off the engine. The place was almost empty, just a tired-looking waitress wiping down a counter and an old man nursing a cup of coffee. I staggered inside, the warmth of the diner doing little to chase the chill from my bones. The waitress looked up, her expression turning to mild concern. "You okay, hon? You look like you've seen a ghost." I laughed, but it came out wrong. Too high, too shaky. I don't know. The old man at the counter stirred his coffee. "Been driving through the pass?" I nodded. He sighed. "You saw the lights." It wasn't a question. My mouth went dry. What are they?" The man set down his spoon and looked at me with weary eyes. "Years ago, there was a bad wreck up there. Car went off the cliff. They never found the driver. But people say on foggy nights, those headlights come back. Like they're looking for someone to follow him down." A cold shudder ran through me. The waitress set a cup of coffee in front of me. "You're lucky," she said softly. I swallowed. "Lucky?" She nodded toward the window, toward the darkness outside. "They only take one person a night." I didn't ask how she knew that. I just sipped my coffee, hands trembling, and prayed I'd never see those lights again. But deep down, I knew the truth. They weren't done looking. I've been driving for a rideshare company for the past 3 years. You see all kinds of people in this job. Drunks too far gone to give directions, couples fighting in whispers that turn into shouts, business people too buried in their phones to say more than 2 words. But nothing prepared me for that night. It was close to 1 a.m. when I got the ping. A pickup request from a gas station on the outskirts of town. A weird spot, just a lone station, flickering lights, and an old convenience store that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 90s. I almost rejected the ride. But it had been a slow night, and I needed the money. I pulled in, scanning the lot. There wasn't much out there, just an empty road stretching into the trees, the buzz of a flickering street lamp, and the faint glow of the gas station's neon sign. Then I saw her. A woman, standing by the curb, head slightly bowed. She had long, dark hair that fell over her face, hiding her features. Pale hands clutching the straps of her bag. She wasn't looking at me, wasn't moving toward the car, just standing there. I rolled down the window. "Hey, you call a ride?" She moved then, slow and deliberate. She slid into the back seat, pulling the door shut behind her. "Hi," I said, forcing a polite tone. "You going to?" I glanced at the app, reading the destination. A residential address across town. Not far, but far enough that I'd have to take the highway. "Got it. You okay back there?" No response. I checked the mirror. She was sitting stiffly, hands in her lap, gaze fixed on the window. Maybe she didn't hear me. I put the car in drive and pulled out. The silence stretched. I could hear the hum of the tires, the faint rustling of trees outside. She didn't check her phone, didn't fidget, didn't do anything but sit there. Something about it gnawed at me. "You sure you're all right?" I asked again. Nothing. I checked the mirror again. The back seat was empty. I nearly slammed the brakes. My stomach lurched, my hands turned ice cold. I turned my head so fast my neck popped. No one was there, but the seatbelt was still buckled. I pulled over onto the shoulder, breathing hard. I twisted in my seat, my pulse hammering. The door was still locked. The seatbelt was still stretched across an empty seat. And then I saw it. A note, resting neatly on the seat. A note that hadn't been there before. In perfect, slanted handwriting, it read, "Thanks for the ride. I never made it home last time." I stared, my fingers trembling. The air in the car suddenly felt wrong. Too thick, too cold. I grabbed the note, my breath coming in short bursts. The paper felt dry, crisp. Too real. A shiver crawled down my spine. I turned the car's interior lights on, checking every inch of the back seat. No sign of her. No bag, no footprints on the floor mat. But the seat was still warm. I had to get out of there. I threw the car into drive and peeled away, hands shaking on the wheel. I didn't care where I was going, just away. Away from whatever the hell had just happened. I should have ended my shift. I should have gone home, crawled into bed, and convinced myself it was exhaustion messing with my head. But I didn't. I did something worse. I checked the app history. Her trip was still active. Her name was still displayed, Lena R. I clicked on her profile, my throat dry. And then my heart nearly stopped. The profile picture. The face staring back at me. I knew her. I had seen that face before. On the news. She had gone missing a year ago. They had found her car wrecked in a ditch by the highway, but they never found her. I felt sick. My vision blurred at the edges. I hit end ride on the app, my fingers ice cold. The trip shouldn't have still been active, but it was. Like she had never reached her destination. Like she was still trying to get home. The moment I ended the trip, my phone died. The screen went black. My music shut off. The car's radio crackled with static before falling silent. And in that awful, suffocating silence, I heard it. A whisper. From the back seat. Next time, don't stop. I didn't turn around. I just kept driving faster and faster until I saw city lights again. I went home that night and didn't sleep. The next morning, I checked my phone fully charged like nothing had happened. The ride history was still there. The name. The address. But when I searched for her profile again, it was gone. No history of the ride. No record of Lena R. Like she had never existed. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And every time I pick up a new passenger at night, I can't help but check the mirror. Because one day, she might come back. I was somewhere along Route 89 when it started. The night was deep, the kind of blackness that swallows headlights whole. No streetlights, no buildings, just miles of empty roads stretching ahead, lined with skeletal trees that swayed in the wind. I had been driving for hours, exhaustion settling into my bones, but I wasn't stopping. I never stopped on roads like this. The only company I had was the low hum of the radio, playing some forgettable oldies station. The kind of music you leave on just to keep the silence at bay. Then the static came. A sharp, grating burst that made me wince. The music stuttered, warped, and then a voice. "You're almost there, Jake." I felt my stomach drop. My hands tightened on the wheel. The highway stretched ahead, endless and dark, the white lines blurring under my tired eyes. But I wasn't tired enough to mishear my own damn name. Except my name isn't Jake. I swallowed, my throat dry. Maybe it was some weird radio ad, a coincidence. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. I reached out and twisted the knob, shutting the radio off. Silence flooded the car. I exhaled. Then the radio turned itself back on. Louder. Static at first, then that voice again. "Don't turn around, Jake. She's in the back seat." Every hair on my body stood on end. The wheel felt slick under my palms, sweat gathering. I didn't want to look. I couldn't. The rearview mirror loomed above me, reflecting nothing but the darkness behind. The back seat was empty, right? I focused on the road, my vision tunneling. My pulse hammered in my throat. The radio crackled again. A whisper, so close it felt like it was coming from inside the car. Too late. And then I felt it. A breath. Cold and slow, against the back of my neck. My body locked up. My vision blurred at the edges. I wasn't alone. I wanted to slam the brakes, to scream, to do anything, but I couldn't. My hands were frozen to the wheel, my foot locked on the gas pedal. The car kept moving, the engine a low, steady hum. In the mirror, something shifted. The faintest movement. A shape. No. No, no, no. My throat tightened. I could feel her now. A presence pressing in behind me, something heavy and cold and wrong. A whisper tickled my ear. "Drive faster, Jake." I nearly lost control. The tires skidded for a second before gripping the road again. The air behind me shifted. A shadow in the mirror. Long hair, tangled and dark. A shape that shouldn't be there. I wanted to scream. I didn't. I kept my eyes forward, my knuckles white as I pressed the gas pedal down. The speedometer crept up. The radio whispered again. "Almost there, Jake." I bit down on my lip, hard enough to draw blood. My name wasn't Jake. And yet, some deep, primal part of me knew she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to him. The one who had been here before me. The one who hadn't made it. The highway stretched on, endless. The trees blurred into shadows. My breath came in short, panicked bursts. I didn't dare blink. I didn't dare look away. Then suddenly, the road ended. Not a dead end. Not a stop sign. Just nothing. Like the world had been cut off mid-sentence. The asphalt simply faded into darkness, like ink spilling into water. My stomach lurched. My foot slammed on the brake. The tires screeched, the car fishtailed. And for one horrible moment, I thought I was going to plunge into that endless void. But I stopped, inches from the edge. shaking, gasping, my body drenched in cold sweat. The radio whispered one last time. He didn't stop last time. I sucked in a ragged breath. Slowly, I turned my head, and the back seat was empty. No shadows, no whispers, just the hum of my engine and the open road behind me. I sat there for a long time, staring into the void ahead, my pulse still hammering in my ears. Then, with trembling hands, I shifted into reverse and backed away. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to leave. And as I drove away, my headlights catching the endless stretch of asphalt once more, I knew one thing for certain. Some roads don't lead anywhere, and some passengers never leave. I wasn't supposed to be out there. That damn GPS had rerouted me onto some backroad shortcut, a narrow strip of cracked asphalt snaking through dense forest. My gas gauge hovered just above empty, and my phone had lost signal miles ago. The night pressed in around me, thick and silent. No other cars, no houses, just trees and fog swallowing my headlights whole. Then I saw the sign, a battered wooden post, leaning slightly, its paint faded and peeling. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 78. I let out a breath. A town. Finally. Maybe I could find gas, a diner, something. I kept driving. The road should have widened. I should have seen lights from houses, businesses, anything. But there was nothing. Just trees. Fog. That gnawing sense of wrongness creeping up my spine. Then, maybe a mile later, another sign. Same weathered wood. Same peeling paint. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 77. I frowned. My stomach twisted with unease. That wasn't right. I hadn't passed any turns. No side roads leading into town. Just this endless stretch of cracked pavement. And yet, the population had changed. A heavy silence settled in the car, pressing against my eardrums. I swallowed hard, pressed the gas pedal a little harder. The fog thickened, swirling in my headlights. The trees seemed to loom closer, their gnarled branches reaching over the road like skeletal fingers. Then, another sign. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 76. My hands clenched the wheel. A cold bead of sweat slid down my temple. I flicked my eyes to the rearview mirror. The road behind me had vanished into the fog, swallowed whole like it had never existed. But something moved back there. A shadow. I pushed the car faster. The numbers kept dropping. 75. 74. 73. I forced myself not to look back. Not to listen to the soft shuffling sounds behind me. Then another sign. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 72. The fog curled like smoke, thick as fingers pressing against my windows. I could barely see the road. And then, a shape flickered in my rearview mirror. A figure standing in the middle of the road. No, not standing. Hanging. Suspended just above the asphalt, its feet dangling. I gritted my teeth and floored it. The car roared forward, the trees blurring into streaks of black and gray. Another sign. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 71. I was moving forward, but the numbers were still dropping. Like someone was disappearing every time I passed one of those signs. Or worse, something was keeping count. My pulse pounded in my ears. My hands were slick with sweat. I had to get out. I had to. Another sign. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 70. And then I heard it. A whisper. Soft. Just behind my ear. You're almost there. I jerked forward, nearly swerving off the road. My breath came in shallow gasps. The voice had come from the back seat. I gripped the wheel like a lifeline, my knuckles turning white. I didn't look. I wouldn't look. The road twisted and turned, the fog pressing in so thick I could barely see past my hood. Another sign. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 69. The voice whispered again. Keep going. A soft exhale brushed the back of my neck. Something was in the car with me. My stomach clenched. I slammed my foot down, urging the car faster. Another sign. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 68. I bit my tongue to keep from screaming. The whispering grew louder. Murmurs overlapping, voices overlapping. Faster. You're almost there. Don't stop now. Keep driving. A cold breath slithered across my skin. I squeezed my eyes shut for half a second, forcing myself to focus on the road. I couldn't listen. I couldn't look. Another sign. Welcome to Black Hollow, population 67. A hand touched my shoulder. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded violently, tires screeching against the asphalt. My breath hitched as I gripped the wheel, knuckles burning. Silence. The whispers were gone. I forced myself to turn my head. The back seat was empty, but the seatbelt was buckled. And the seat, there was an indentation, as if someone had been sitting there. I swallowed down bile, my heartbeat hammering like a war drum in my ears. I wasn't going to make it. I had to make it. I slammed my foot onto the gas. The car shot forward, tearing through the fog. My hands shook as I gripped the wheel, my breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps. The numbers kept dropping. 66, 65, 64. I pushed harder. The trees blurred. The fog curled and twisted, pressing against the windshield like a living thing. And then finally, a sign. Not like the others. Larger, clearer, the paint fresh. Now leaving Black Hollow, population 1. I hit the highway, tires screeching. The moment I crossed that invisible threshold, the fog vanished. The trees thinned. The air was suddenly clear. I let out a shaky breath. I didn't check my mirrors. Didn't look at the back seat. Didn't stop driving. Because I knew. I had been the only one left. You ever get that feeling like something's watching you? Not just the paranoid kind, but something real, something there, just out of sight? I got that feeling the night my car decided it didn't need me anymore. It was late. Too late. One of those nights where your brain runs on fumes and your body moves on autopilot. I just wanted to get home, throw my keys on the counter, and collapse into bed. My eyes burned from staring at a computer screen all day, and the highway was one long, endless stretch of empty pavement. Then my GPS pinged. Faster route available. I barely glanced at it before tapping accept. I always took the same road home, but if I could shave 10 minutes off my drive, why not? The route changed, veering me off the highway. The road narrowed, winding through a thick forest. The farther I drove, the darker it got. The streetlights disappeared. The road felt tighter, hemmed in by towering trees that pressed close like silent spectators. My signal died. The GPS screen flickered, just for a second. Turn left. I frowned. There was no left turn. Just an unbroken wall of trees, black and impenetrable. I slowed down, scanning ahead, expecting to see a dirt road or some hidden path. Nothing. Turn left. The voice wasn't the calm, robotic GPS voice anymore. It was lower now. Wrong. Like a voice being stretched. I pressed the brakes, but my car didn't slow down. I pressed harder. Nothing. The pedal was dead beneath my foot. Turn left. The trees ahead began to shift. The road changed. I swear to God, where there had been nothing but trees, an opening was forming. A path that hadn't existed a second ago now stretched ahead, swallowed in fog. I gripped the wheel. My knuckles went white. Turn left. The GPS screen flickered again. The map was gone, replaced by 2 words. Welcome home. A cold sweat broke out on my skin. My breath came shallow and fast. I slammed the brakes. Nothing. The car kept driving. I tried the wheel. Locked. The engine revved, but not from my foot. I wasn't in control anymore. The car turned on its own. I twisted in my seat, my heart hammering. The highway, the real road, was disappearing behind me. I should have been panicking. Maybe I was. But my mind was struggling to catch up, struggling to make sense of it. Cars don't just drive themselves. Roads don't just change. Do they? The headlights cut through the fog, illuminating a path I didn't recognize. The road wasn't paved anymore. It was dirt now, rough and uneven, like it had been here forever. And on either side of it, figures. Not people. Not really. Shapes standing between the trees. Watching. They had no faces, just hollow spaces where their features should have been. Their heads followed as the car passed. I tried to scream, but my throat locked up. The GPS flickered again. You're home. The engine cut off. The headlights died. The car stopped. And in the pitch-black silence, something knocked on my window. Not a casual tap. A deliberate, patient knock. I sat frozen, my body rigid, every nerve screaming at me not to look. The knock came again. Slow. Steady. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping the steering wheel like a lifeline. A whisper. Right against the glass. Let us in. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then, the door lock clicked. I don't remember what happened next. 1 second I was in the car, trapped in that impossible nightmare. The next, I was waking up in my bed. My car was in the driveway, parked like nothing had ever happened. The GPS was off. The screen was blank. And yet, there was dirt on my tires. Fog still clung to the trees outside my window. And when I grabbed my keys, my hands were still shaking. Because I knew. I had driven home. But I hadn't been the one behind the wheel.